Everyone expected Manny Pacquiao to make one last statement. A legend, an icon, a fighter who had done it all. But standing across from him was Yordenis Ugas, calm, disciplined, and completely overlooked. Round after round, something felt off. The speed wasn't the same. The timing wasn't landing. And Ugas? He wasn't just surviving, he was controlling the fight. By the time the final bell rang, the boxing world realized something shocking. This wasn't a comeback story. This was the end of an era. The atmosphere inside the arena was electric. Thousands of fans were on their feet as both fighters made their final preparations. One man was looking to prove he still belonged at the highest level of the sport. The other was determined to show that a new era had already begun. After weeks of anticipation, there was nothing left to say. The bell was about to ring, and finally, the fight began. Round 1. From the opening seconds, both fighters showed respect for each other's abilities. Pacquiao immediately began bouncing on his feet, looking for angles and trying to establish the fast-paced rhythm that had defined his career. Ugas remained patient, keeping a high guard and relying on his jab to control distance. The crowd erupted every time Pacquiao launched a quick combination, but many of those attacks were partially blocked or slipped by the Cuban champion. Ugas wasn't interested in matching Pacquiao's volume. Instead, he focused on precision, landing clean jabs and measuring the distance carefully. The round wasn't explosive, but it revealed the tactical battle that would define the fight. Pacquiao was trying to create chaos, while Ugas was determined to maintain order. By the end of the round, neither fighter had gained a major advantage, but Ugas looked comfortable and composed under the bright lights. Round 2. As the second round began, Pacquiao increased his activity, throwing combinations from different angles and attempting to force the champion into uncomfortable exchanges. Ugas, however, seemed completely unfazed. He continued working behind a sharp jab, repeatedly interrupting Pacquiao's forward movement before it could fully develop. The difference in styles became more noticeable with every minute. Pacquiao relied on speed, movement, and volume, while Ugas relied on timing, patience, and accuracy. Several times during the round, Ugas landed clean right hands that immediately caught the attention of both the crowd and the commentators. Pacquiao continued pushing forward, but he wasn't finding the same success he had enjoyed in many of his previous championship fights. The Cuban champion appeared confident, disciplined, and fully committed to his game plan. Momentum slowly began leaning in his direction. Round 3. By the third round, Ugas looked increasingly confident. His jab was becoming one of the most important weapons in the fight, consistently disrupting Pacquiao's attempts to close the distance. Every time the former champion tried to build momentum, Ugas responded with a clean counter or a well-timed jab. Pacquiao still had moments of success, especially when he managed to throw combinations in bursts, but those moments were becoming harder to sustain. The crowd continued supporting the Filipino legend, hoping to see flashes of the fighter who had dominated multiple generations. Yet Ugas remained calm and disciplined. He refused to get drawn into emotional exchanges and instead focused on winning the small battles occurring every few seconds. By the end of the round, the champion appeared to be gaining confidence, while Pacquiao was still searching for answers. Round 4. Understanding that the fight was beginning to slip away from him, Pacquiao entered the fourth round with greater urgency. He increased his punch output and attempted to push Ugas backward more consistently. For brief moments, the strategy appeared effective. The crowd came alive whenever Pacquiao landed a fast combination, reminding everyone why he had become one of boxing's most beloved champions. But Ugas remained remarkably composed. Rather than panicking, he continued executing his game plan with precision. His jab repeatedly found the target, and his right hand began landing with increasing consistency. While Pacquiao's aggression created excitement, Ugas's accuracy created results. As the round ended, it became clear that the champion was no longer just surviving the legend's attacks. He was beginning to dictate the fight himself. Round 5. As the fifth round began, the energy inside the arena started to change. Pacquiao continued moving forward, but Ugas was now reading his attacks with increasing confidence. The champion's jab was landing consistently, interrupting Pacquiao's rhythm before he could launch his trademark combinations. Every successful attack from the Filipino legend was answered by a sharp counter from Ugas. What made the round so important wasn't a dramatic exchange or a knockdown. It was the growing sense that Ugas was becoming more comfortable with every passing minute. Pacquiao was still working hard, still throwing punches, but the champion was controlling where many of the exchanges took place. As the bell sounded, it felt like Ugas was beginning to establish real control over the fight. Round 6. Entering the 6th, Pacquiao knew he needed to increase the pressure. He pushed forward aggressively, trying to force the champion into a faster pace. The crowd responded to every attack, hoping to see the explosive combinations that had made him famous around the world. But Ugas remained disciplined. He refused to abandon the strategy that had brought him success through the first half of the fight. His jab continued to split Pacquiao's guard, and his right hand repeatedly found the target. The contrast between the two fighters became increasingly clear. One was relying on experience, heart, and relentless activity. The other was relying on patience, precision, and tactical execution. By the end of the round, Ugas looked calm and composed, while Pacquiao was being forced to work harder for every opportunity. Round 7. The 7th round marked one of the strongest stretches of the fight for Ugas. His confidence was now fully visible. Instead of simply reacting to Pacquiao's attacks, he began initiating exchanges and controlling the center of the ring more frequently. Pacquiao remained dangerous, but his combinations were becoming less effective against Ugas's disciplined defense. Every time Pacquiao stepped forward, the champion seemed ready with a counter. The Cuban's timing was exceptional, and his ability to anticipate Pacquiao's movements became a major factor. The crowd still believed the legend could change the fight with one explosive sequence, but round by round, Ugas was building a convincing case on the scorecards. Round 8. With the championship rounds approaching, Pacquiao continued searching for a breakthrough. He increased his output and attempted to create more exchanges at close range. For brief moments, he found success, landing combinations that energized the audience. But Ugas refused to lose focus. The champion continued working behind his jab, maintaining distance and forcing Pacquiao to reset repeatedly. What stood out most was Ugas's composure. He never appeared rushed, never appeared overwhelmed by the occasion. While Pacquiao fought with urgency, Ugas fought with control. The round was competitive, but the champion once again seemed to land the cleaner and more effective punches. Round 9. Entering the 9th round, Manny Pacquiao understood that the fight was becoming increasingly difficult. While he continued moving forward and throwing combinations, the scoreboard was no longer his biggest concern. What mattered now was momentum. The Filipino legend began taking more risks, stepping inside more aggressively and attempting to force exchanges at close range. Every successful combination brought the crowd to life, reminding everyone of the explosive fighter who had dominated boxing for decades. But Yordenis Ugas remained composed. Rather than allowing emotions to take over, he continued relying on the same disciplined strategy that had brought him success throughout the evening. His jab consistently interrupted Pacquiao's rhythm, and whenever the former champion rushed forward, Ugas answered with accurate counters. The contrast between the two men was fascinating to watch. One fighter was searching for a turning point. The other was quietly preventing it from ever arriving. As the round came to a close, Ugas looked increasingly confident, while Pacquiao continued searching for the breakthrough that refused to come. Round 10. As the 10th round began, a new sense of urgency surrounded Pacquiao. There were only a few rounds remaining, and he knew he needed to make a significant impact. He increased his output, throwing more combinations and attempting to pressure Ugas against the ropes whenever possible. The crowd sensed the urgency as well, reacting loudly every time Pacquiao managed to land a clean sequence. Yet Ugas remained remarkably disciplined. He never appeared rattled by the atmosphere or the reputation of the man standing across from him. Instead, he continued boxing intelligently, maintaining distance and forcing Pacquiao to work harder for every opportunity. Several sharp right hands from Ugas once again reminded everyone that he was not simply defending a lead, he was actively winning exchanges. As the round progressed, Pacquiao's determination remained obvious, but Ugas's control of the fight became even more apparent. The champion looked fresh, focused, and fully committed to seeing his game plan through to the final bell. Round 11. With only 2 rounds remaining, Pacquiao entered the 11th, knowing this could be his last realistic opportunity to change the course of the fight. He fought with visible urgency, increasing his pace and attempting to create the kind of dramatic moment that had defined so many memorable victories throughout his career. The crowd responded immediately, willing the legendary champion forward with every attack. But Ugas continued showing incredible composure under pressure. He refused to panic, refused to abandon his strategy, and continued landing clean, effective punches whenever openings appeared. His jab remained a major weapon, disrupting Pacquiao's forward movement and forcing him to reset repeatedly. Even when Pacquiao succeeded in closing the distance, Ugas often found a way to answer before exiting safely. The champion's confidence seemed to grow with every passing minute. While Pacquiao's heart and determination were impossible to question, Ugas was proving that discipline and execution could overcome even the greatest names in the sport. By the end of the round, the challenge facing Pacquiao appeared larger than ever. Round 12. The final round carried an emotional atmosphere unlike any other moment in the fight. Manny Pacquiao stepped forward one last time, determined to leave everything he had inside the ring. Every punch, every movement, and every attack reflected the pride of a fighter who had spent decades competing at the highest level. The crowd stood behind him, hoping for one final dramatic chapter in an already legendary career. Across the ring, Yordenis Ugas remained calm and focused. He understood exactly what was at stake and refused to let the moment distract him. Rather than fighting emotionally, he continued doing what had worked all night, controlling distance, landing clean shots, and making smart decisions under pressure. As the final seconds disappeared, both men exchanged punches in the center of the ring, fully aware that the end had arrived. When the bell finally sounded, the arena erupted in applause. Moments later, the judges would confirm the result, but by then the story had already been written. Ugas had delivered the performance of his career, while Pacquiao had shown the courage and determination that made him a boxing icon.